Hello, and welcome back to MATHY200 for Loyola New Orleans University. This is Chapter 8, Part 1. We're going to talk about tables today, which is frankly one of my favorite topics to talk about with HTML. I love tables. So we'll get going here. You're basically going to learn how to create a table and make it pretty. The big thing about tables is just setting up and doing them. Making them pretty, people are less interested in that usually. So tables can be used in a lot of different ways, and it used to be, before CSS was really popular, that we would use tables to actually, before div and span really got used well, we'd use tables for placement in the web pages, for trying to organize a web page and design it and do everything in tables so that you have a lot more control. So kind of it's the old school way of controlling your layout, and frankly I like doing it that way because I still like using tables to help control layout, because I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's really straightforward and easy. They're intuitive, they truly are, but they're also limited compared to what you can do with div, spans, and true CSS that we've learned in previous chapters. A lot of times tables are used for their real primary purpose, for just like putting information into a table onto a page. But again, you can make a whole web page as a table and control the layout with that. They're pretty flexible. Tables always have columns and rows, and within columns or rows, the intersection is a cell. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and there really is much to it. That's why there's only 17 slides to this chapter. Tables have basically three fundamental elements. There's a few other ones, but it comes down to table, the element table, which defines telling HTML that the rest of this area is in a table, and then TR for table row and TD for table data. You don't actually specify the columns because the columns are specified within each row. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So again, table, you use that to say, hey, I'm going to set up a table. Then you say a TR within a table. You can't have, it wouldn't make any sense to put a TR outside of a table. It wouldn't make any sense to have a TD outside of a TR with that's outside of a table. You also have these other two things that are used a little less commonly: table header and caption. And this gives you an example of all five components here. The table is the whole table, including the word bird sightings. We have a TR for this table row, another TR for here, another TR for here, and then a TH for this table header, TH for this table header, and TDs for these. Again, the distinction between a TD and a TH becomes a little bit blurry. It mostly helps you organize your information better. This is the actual code for this exact picture. Okay, now there's a few things of note here. First off, table. Okay, you almost always want to specify a border. I think, depending on your browser, by default the border is 1, which is nice to help you design your table, but it's not always the most useful thing to have set up. You sometimes want to set to border 0. Oftentimes want to set to border 0 so you don't see any of the lines. If you set to border of 10, the lines will be really thick. So this gives you just the border of your table. So it's a pretty common attribute in the table element. Notice the table opens here and closes here, and all the stuff inside of it is part of the table. Then this caption is a little bit odd, but that's kind of new in HTML5, I believe. So it allows you to do a caption, and it doesn't actually include it as part within the table, but it is still part of the table. And so it's really kind of nice. So it puts it here, and this might be displayed differently on different browsers. It certainly has options for displaying differently in different browsers. Tables generally look the same on most all browsers, but they're not always a gimme. Okay, but that one, the caption, is much more subject to interpretation. Then we have here, okay, well in this case the table header isn't being used, we just have it as table data. You could definitely do this as table header, and usually a table header will be like kind of bolded or somehow emphasized. Again, that's a little bit subject to interpretation of the browser. So you might want to specify it in CSS. So, and you can totally control the look of it with the CSS, but we'll talk about that later. So we have a table row. It opens here, it closes here. Every time you have a table row, you close it somewhere else. Table row, table row, table row, table row. And then the whole table opens here, closes here. The caption surrounds the text of the caption. So this is, this is pretty standard. Then within each table row, you have the table data. Okay, so I have 2 table datas in each row, and that specifies the number of columns. The number of columns is taken care of by how many TDs you have within each thing. Now you can actually have multiple table datas within a table row, like have 3 here and 2 here and 5 here. Then if you had that, then the table would be a 3-row table with 5 columns, because it goes by the maximum number of columns, depending on a few other factors, which I'll get to in a sec. So, but this is the simplest example of a table. Okay. Also, I want to point out, when you're doing your tables, and I will take off points if you don't do this well, indent, please, indent, please, indent. Don't put this all on one level. It looks ugly, hideous, and frustrating. Okay, your code should be readable. A good designed HTML will show you, this is a TR, it goes to here, the TDs are within here, so it's indented a little bit over. Whether you use spaces, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 1 space, I don't care. Use more than 1, use 2 or 3 at least, or 5. Or tabs, you can use a tab character. It won't show up in your HTML. You won't see the spaces, but it makes it so this is an obviously easy to read HTML code. Okay, that's part of this class. I'm teaching you not only how to write correct HTML code, but pretty and good. So this is another example of a table, and in this case, instead of TDs for the table datas for your top elements, we use TH, and you can see how it's kind of emphasized a little. They work exactly the same as TDs. You just open the TH and close the TH, just like you do open the TD and close the TD. So this is more or less as complicated as it gets. If you understand this about tables, you're way past halfway to understanding tables. So study this, look at this. It's not overwhelmingly hard. But the thing is, you have to think going down while you're going across. So the code is written down, sequentially, but you're actually writing, this cell, then 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 this cell. But the code goes all straight down. Okay, and I highly recommend. Sometimes I see it when, and this is okay if doesn't extend too far, where you have the TDs, the table data is on one line. That's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but definitely open and close it, open and close it. I also see occasionally where you have a table data, you don't close it, and a table data, and you don't close it, and you just don't bother with it, and just leave the next opening one to close the other one. That's bad form. It's technically incorrect. I will take off a minimal amount of points for that, but it is not a good thing to do. You want to avoid that. It's like having a unordered list, a UL, or any sort of list, and having that each LI is just LI in the text and not closing out the list element. Better form to do it correctly. Okay. Let's go ahead and pause here and come back to this page.